So Kevin, you've been in a lot of TV shows. Murder, She Wrote, Two and a Half Men, most famously Hercules. You've been in a lot of faith-based shows, including God's Not Dead, and many others. I want to welcome you to our program called Connecting the Dots. So thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. It's funny you mentioned Murder, She Wrote, and that was way before the Hercules years even. So you did a little bit of homework in there as well. My mom was happy because she's a big fan of that show. So I got to meet Angela Lansbury. She was ecstatic about that.
Well, we have an older audience, so they will all know.
Oh, yeah,
Murder,
she loved it.
She Wrote, yeah.
She loved it. Angela and her husband invited me into their trailer on the lot over there at Universal Studios. And I came walking out after dinner, after lunch, and during lunch break, and people just stared at me because she never invites anybody in. And she was checking me out because she wanted to set me up with her niece.
Oh,
So we did a blind date. We met, but there was no. It was just, but it was. I thought it was very cute and very nice that she actually did that and accepted me as a good enough person to meet her niece. So in my book, that was okay.
Well, talking about being accepted, so I know you've been asked this question a lot of times, but people still want to know, what is it like to be an outspoken conservative Christian in the world of liberal Hollywood?
Well, I love to say if you're a Christian or conservative in Hollywood, that's about being like a double leopard. That's what it really comes down to. So I became more vocal about it probably about 12 years ago. My wife said, careful. And I said, you know what? I'm just questioning people when I hear people say certain things in the set. And I go, why do you say that? You know, how do you have proof this person's a racist? How do you have proof that this person, whatever it may be? And they love their labels. They don't have any proof behind it all. But it got to the point my manager and the agent called me in. They said, we can't represent you anymore. And I said, why? And I was basically blackballed from Hollywood. I was put on the blacklist because being a conservative was enough. And I was blown away by it, because I said, I've been in business for, now 35 years. But at that time it was 25 years, 26 years. And I said, wait a minute. You guys always scream about tolerance and freedom of speech, but those are one-way streets with them. And it's just sad to me because I don't have that sort of hate and anger that they have towards me. If someone has a different political point of view, a different religious point of view, let's discuss about it. I don't sit there and everything they deal with, everything comes back from that left side to me is anger, hatred, divisiveness, and look what it's doing to the world right now. And Andrew Breitbart, who was a dear friend of mine, he's the one who quoted the phrase that politics is downstream from culture, and who runs the culture? Hollywood does, mainstream media does, and look where we are.
So do you think there are a lot of conservative Christians in Hollywood who are just mute?
I think there's a lot of conservatives, and I think there's conservative Christians. I don't think every conservative I know is not necessarily Christian, but there are a lot more out there than people know. We had a secret group, it isn't secret anymore, we got outed, so to speak, but it was run by a handful of guys that kicked it off called FOA, Friends of Abe. And Abe Lincoln, our first, conservative Republican president. And we had a group that reached about 2,600 people on both sides of the camera. Everything from lawyers, agents, actors, extras, whatever it may be. That we would get together in gatherings. We'd have one big gathering a year out at a ranch out near where I used to live, out in Thousand Oaks area in California. And it was awesome. And we had big name politicians come in and big name celebrities come in, and I can name them, but I'm not going to name them. It's not my business. They can come out themselves, and a lot of them have. John Voight, let's face it, he's pretty much out there, Thank God we had that, because it was just like a place to get together. And then people started coming in pretending to be, because they wanted to see what was going on, and spy on us or something like that. But it was just weird to me that we even had to form a group like that. But to answer your question, there's quite a few that are afraid to, because they know their career is going to get hurt. It is.
Yeah, so first you're centered in Hollywood, as you just expressed. Then you basically you have to move out of Hollywood, right? And now you're one of the primary targets of the social media justice warriors out there trying to censor you even more. Your Twitter followers have been slashed. I think everybody knows that. Facebook has attacked you. They have they currently have you off of Facebook. Is that true? Yeah. So do you think that wokeism and cancel culture are trying to defeat your First Amendment rights to speak out on issues?
Sure they are. Of course they are. But Twitter, they started shadow banning me, and they started cutting away slowly. And now they stopped, and I built it back up to close to 600,000 again. But I would have been over 1 million on Facebook easy, but those guys started shadow banning me 3 years ago. I mean, look, they take down the president of the United States for crying out loud. You know, I'm just a peon to that, you know. And so to me, it's like these people, they run on fear and they operate on fear. It's a very interesting dichotomy that they have going on within themselves.
Do you think the other social media platforms have a chance to be a solution?
Yeah. I moved over to one called Cloud Hub, which I think is awesome. Another one, Free Space, which I think is great as well. They're run by conservatives, they're run by Christians, and you can say, hey, I love God, or you can say, hey, when are we going to fight back for our rights? Because they're taking away all our freedoms, and we need to fight back.
Yeah, it is kind of scary, isn't it?
And people that have pre-existing conditions, people that, you know, those could cover a gamut of things. They need to be protected, and I get that. They need to stay inside, whatever. My mom's one of them. She's 89 years old. She's had multiple surgeries. She's had problems all her life. Yes, we need to protect her. It was horrible. I couldn't see her Thanksgiving and Christmas this year, but I get it.
Yeah, so
Our tax dollars.
this is a personal question of mine. So
Sure.
you've been in 143 types of films, some movies, some TV series. Which one are you the most proud of? And is it because of the message that it has?
Well, I don't know. I know the number. I've done 64 movies, so 143. I don't know. I mean, Hercules would just be one, but there was, you know, well over 140 episodes. Andromeda is another one that we did 130 episodes. So if they counted that, then we'd be way above that number. So I don't know where they get that number, but I know that I've done a lot of stuff. I've been very fortunate. Even after Hollywood booted me out, I started doing a lot of independent movies. I'm always going to give Hercules a nod because without that, I wouldn't have had the success I had that followed. I mean, period. I had a blast doing that show. 7 years in New Zealand, 176 countries, became the most watched TV show in the world. But then when I got booted out of Hollywood, basically, I knew that I started doing my own things. I had a lot of connections out there in business a long time. I've directed and produced before, and I'm still doing that now. But Dallas Jenkins, who's a dear friend of mine, he came to me. He's doing The Chosen right now. He came to me with a script back in 2010. He said, hey, I got this script. I want your thoughts on it. I read it, and I said, well, who's playing Pastor Ben? He said, well, I don't know. I got maybe this. I said, no, I'm paying. He goes, dude, I can't afford you. And I said, because this is such a low-budget movie. We're ultra low budget. I said, I don't care. Just pay me what SAG says you have to pay me minimum. But it's called What If. Same writers that did God's Not Dead. I think it's a better movie than God's Not Dead. I would put that in my, of 64 movies, I'd put that in my top 5 easily, What If. And that really opened the door for me to want to do more movies that weren't necessarily faith-based. I almost hate that title because even atheism is a faith. But I call them family-friendly movies. But I said, these are the kind of movies that I want to do. And for the most part, I've been doing them. I mentioned 64 movies. There's a dozen I wish I didn't do. It was just stupid for me to do them. I thought they'd be good and they ended up being sucky. But you don't know. But those kind of movies like God's Not Dead, Abel's Field, Let There Be Light that I directed, I think it's a wonderful movie. I mentioned to you before we started the interview, I'm doing the next Left Behind movie. Mm-hmm. I've got another movie with Dean Cain we're doing called Carpool Lane, which is a really good, touching story that people will be blown away by the end of the movie. They'll have no idea what's coming at the end of the movie, which I love about it. I'm in the Reagan movie. Dennis Quaid's playing Ronald Reagan. I'm playing his pastor. I have 1 week left to film on that in Oklahoma. And I've got a movie called Trailblazers, which is a faith-based Western. And everybody in it are people of faith, which is, why not? I mean, when you got actors in Hollywood, big A-list actors saying I'll never hire an effing conservative to be in my movie, which is really childish. This guy that's putting the movie together said that I'm going to hire nothing but Christians. And I said, fine, go for it. It's your movie. You can do whatever you want.
You know, the left is like that, right? They think they got a great plan. I'm going to kick all these conservatives and Christians out of Hollywood, and they just start their own. And now they have competition that they wouldn't have had if they would have just left us alone and let the conservatives and the Christians to stay in the industry and just be who they are.
Yeah.
So a lot of people would like to know when you became a Christian.
I've been one of my whole life, really. I mean, I grew up in a typical Scandinavian Norwegian boy, Lutheran church in Minnesota. My parents were both born in farms in Iowa. My grandparents were brought over at a very young age from Norway, so I'm second generation Norwegian, second generation American. And but 13 years old really is a year that sticks for me a lot, because we had a youth pastor come in, Pastor Lee, and he was an amazing pastor. And we had youth night every Wednesday night in the upper part of the church, and it'd be about 20 of us teenagers all hanging out and talking. And this guy was really cool, and he took us on a field trip. Well, the whole church went to see the Reverend Billy Graham speak, and it was at the St. Paul Fairgrounds, and there to be, I think it was like 250,000 people there, and we're outside on a hot August night. The full moon was out, and I just remember it was like a living organism. I mean, that many people there listening to this man speak. And I had to be 100 yards out. I was so far away, but they had screens up and stuff. And at the end, he said, if anybody wants to come up and meet some of the volunteers to pray with, talk with, whatever. And I was moved to go up there. And I went up there and I sat in the grass, just talking to the guy. I mean, I was 13, the guy was 30, so he's like a really old guy to me, And we're talking, and all of a sudden a hand went in my head, and I turned around, and it was the Reverend Billy Graham. And his head was covering the moon perfectly. So there's a glow, this glow being behind him, and I get goosebumps every time I tell a story. And I told it years ago, and I get a call from Chicken Soup from the Soul, because the Reverend Billy Graham, they're doing a hardcover book, but they've always only done paperback for Chicken Soup for the Soul, 101 stories from people that have been whatever inspired. And of course, by this time now I'm a famous guy, and the Reverend loved your story, got a big kick out of it. Would you write that story up and give us one of the chapters? And I said, heck yeah. So I did it. They call me up like 3 months later, and the book comes out, and he says he would love you to be the guy that goes out to all the talk shows to promote the book. And I said, send me the tickets, I'm ready to go. So it was really an honor for me, because it just really stuck with me. I mean, I've never lived a perfect life. I don't know who has, but I've never stopped believing. I know in my 20s I stopped going to church as often as I used to, or how often I go now. But I always prayed. I tell people that I got atheist friends, they say, look, I learned long ago something called the grateful prayer. You don't have to be religious to do it. You can just be grateful. Be in your car in bad traffic in LA and say, you know what? Traffic sucks, but I'm grateful the sun's out. I'm grateful I have a car. I'm grateful I got a pillow. I'm grateful I got hot water. We take things so for granted in this country, in this world right now, and people need to learn to be grateful.
Unfortunately, you are correct. We do take a lot of things for granted. And people just took a look at what other countries are doing to those people, North Korea, they would understand why we have to protect what we have here in the United States and stand our grounds, which you have been doing. Sure. So a lot of people are going to say, I want more Kevin. So how do they find more Kevin?
The couple places, kevinsorbo.net is always a great place to go. We have the Sorbo Family Film Studios. I know it's long, we're going to shorten it. We're in the process now of revamping my wife's website and my website to put it all into this one site. Maybe just be called sorbofilms.com, but right now it's sorbofamilyfilmstudios.com. And leave their email, leave information. They can follow me on CloudHub. They can follow me on Free Space. Parlor's back up again too. I post a lot of different places. And I got a lot of stuff coming. I got a movie that just came out on Good Friday. It's called The Girl Who Believes in Miracles. We're in about 600 screens right now, starting our third week right now. I've got another one called One Nation Under God opening in June, and that's a high school drama about putting that phrase back into our Pledge of Allegiance. And then I have another one that I directed called Miracle in East Texas, true story set in 1930. I have the amazing Lou Gossett Jr. is in it, John Ratzenberger is in it. It's a true story set in 1930 about the largest oil find in the history of the world, right in the heart of the Depression. It's won everything from best romantic comedy to best faith-based film to judges' favorite. So we're going to be coming out strong in July with that one. And I have 4 movies set to go, and I just shot a TV series, 8 episodes. Hope it comes out. It's like Last Man Standing, Tim Allen's show.
Right.
And then we have another TV series I'm shooting, the pilot up in California. That's just it's a good teenage drama. It's a good drama to reach out to kids to show them that there is hope and redemption out there, and you don't have to sit there and look at the world as such an angry, negative place.
Well, Kevin, I know you got big plans tonight.
I do.
Across the street.
Yeah.
I want to appreciate you, say appreciation for coming on our show. And I want people to know that if you want to follow Kevin, the links will be below this video,
Awesome.
and you'll provide me those, and we'll put them up
Okay.
there, and
Sure.
try to get some of that following that the social media justice warriors have denied you.
Yeah,
Getting back
thank you.
into your-
Appreciate that.
Into your following there. Anyway, thank you for coming on our show.
My pleasure.